Welcome to the Social Work Rants podcast, providing a platform for social workers to share their stories. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including mental health, social justice, policy, and the day-to-day realities of the profession. Season 10 will continue to focus on the intersectionality of mental health and finances. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of the Social Work Brands Podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Shout out everybody who's been watching or listening to the podcast. Recently, the podcast. Shout out to FeedSpot, the great folks out there, the podcast. If you go on FeedSpot's website, type in Top Social Work Podcasts. They updated their list, and the podcast was recently ranked number 3. So I'm moving on up on the list. So that goes to everybody who listens, everybody who shared my memes that I post on Instagram and kind of like just supporting. So thank you to all the listeners and viewers for making that happen. So I guess at this time, Jessica Bosch, how you doing, my friend?
I am hanging in there. How are you?
Same, hanging in there.
Yeah.
Uh, it's I usually get like seasonal depression around in the spring. Um,
Interesting.
so it's been kicking my ass. So
Okay. Okay. Well,
I'm
hang
hanging
in
in there.
there, my friend. We need you.
I'm, yeah, I'm hanging in there. Before we get started on today's topic, I did want to set the disclaimer: this podcast is not to be used as a substitute for individual therapy or counseling. If you need help, if you have a therapist, go talk to your therapist. If you have a psychiatrist, talk to your psychiatrist. Call 988 if you need help. Call 911. If you need help, go to the nearest emergency room. For my out of the country listeners and viewers, whatever your emergency line is, please use that. It's okay not to be okay, but definitely get the help that you need. So, uh, Jessica, just let people know who you are and what you do in the space.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Something new for me, so bear with me as I go through it. But I am a Master of Social Work. I got my MSW from the University of Nevada, Reno.
Oh,
It was,
nice.
yeah, it was an online program. I was living in Las Vegas at the time. And what led me on this path, so my undergrad was in sociology, and I spent some time out of the country. And when we landed back in Vegas in 2020, I got started as a psychosocial rehabilitation provider. So I did my 16-hour Medicaid training at the time and started working with kiddos, the most vulnerable kiddos in Las Vegas. And, I was spending a lot of time making connections with these kids and working on, all sorts of psychosocial things. A lot of the kiddos were, had some sort of connection with social services, foster care system, and
Mm.
that whole thing. So as I connected with these clients, they started wanting to process deeper trauma with me, and that was not my role. So, that kind of lit the spark, and all right, let's go. Let's get this MSW. Let's be a child therapist. I think my mom used to say that that's what I was going to be when I was a little kid. And that was not the path I ever went down, but here we are. I found myself on that path. And um, the longer I spent in the field, the more and more and more discouraged I got.
Mm.
So by the time I graduated in August, I was burned out. I was burned out. I was really struggling with the NASW and just some of their stances. I felt as my activism and my organizing grew over the last 2 years, which aligns with the social work code of ethics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Political activism and organizing, that's part of our code of ethics. But I was watching the board stay silent on a lot of things that is affecting us as social workers, as
Mm.
helpers, and even more so our clients, right? So I just, yeah, it just became very disingenuous for me to follow that. So, my personal protest, I guess, I chose not to pursue licensure, as an intentional rejection of the systems that I felt were complicit in oppression and burnout. And I didn't feel like I wasn't burned out from the work. Like the work was super fulfilling. I loved the families I was working with. I loved the kiddos I was connecting with, but um the dissonance between our values as helpers and the limitations of the institutions that we were working within, that
Mm-hmm.
really caused a lot of conflict for me. So it doesn't affect anybody else but myself, but I chose not to get licensed. So now that's kind of what led me to where I am today. I've actually moved back to New York State, back in my hometown after a decade away, and I'm working in higher education at a small university, and I'm a project director for a federal grant. So it's the Department of Justice, Office of Violence Against Women, and I'm working on the topic of DVSAS, if you don't know what that is, domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking, and just trying to change campus culture. And my favorite part about my job right now is that I get to mostly work in more of a macro frame where I have some sort of impact on institutional policy. But at the same time, I do get some micro student contact, which
Mm-hmm.
fulfills me and keeps me going. So that was a very long-winded answer to who I am and what I'm doing.
Cool. A lot, a lot to unpack there. Um, how was it? I never been to Nevada, so how was it? Working there, working with the kids, and especially during 2020 when the world was basically shut down.
One of the funniest things was that while everybody was being like isolated in their homes, I started working. And because we were considered healthcare workers, we were essential.
Essential workers, right?
Yeah. So, and I was brand new. So I was just going into homes all masked up and scared. um, and it was tough to, I didn't feel comfortable like imposing any sort of regulations or anything on other people in their homes, right? So
Mm,
oftentimes I felt nervous, but that I guess rightfully so. I don't want to say that it was not something we should have taken seriously by any means. So
mm,
um, but it was tough. Let me rewind though a little bit. Before we started going into the homes, like those first couple of weeks, we were I was doing psychosocial rehabilitation virtually with really young kids who had just spent 6 to 8 hours on a computer for school.
mm,
And that was like, it just seemed so ridiculous. It seemed so pointless. It seemed,
mm,
you know, but once we started going back into the homes and um, there was just so much uncertainty, right? And these kids were experiencing it. So, and on top of this was just the cherry on top for the myriad problems and issues that they already had going on, right? That had them
mm,
in the position to be receiving these sort of services. So um, that was definitely an interesting time. As I got into my master's program and started doing um, my practicum and my internships, my clinical director, shout out to him, he's a wonderful human being. He always would tell us like Vegas is the best place to learn. You are going to see all the things, especially working in like a community mental health. So this is separate from my PSR work. Uh, and we saw it all. We saw it all. He's like, but this isn't necessarily the place you want to stay. This isn't necessarily the place you want to grow your career. So um, interesting. I would also say that we see a lot of fraud out there. The healthcare systems in general in this country are really not great. But in Vegas, it was tough. And I do attribute that as well to Nevada is a state where there is no state taxes. So
Mm,
I think when you look at the highest state taxes in the country is where you're going to see more social services and safety nets in place. So when you look at the uh, income and revenue in the state, which there's a boatload of it. It's Las Vegas, it's Nevada, but it's just not
mm,
going to the right places, unfortunately. So there's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering in Las Vegas. You don't see it when you go as a tourist. Um, the Metro Police Department does a really good job making sure you don't see it. And
mm.
that's also sad because that shouldn't be the role of police. Police should be keeping the community safe.
Right.
But instead, they're just making sure that Las Vegas looks pretty for tourists. And meanwhile, there's tent cities everywhere and there's people struggling immensely, and there's not a lot of help.
Mm. Wow, that's no, definitely very, very unfortunate, and especially, I'm a big sports, person, so to have like I know the WNBA team or the Aces are literally like selling out
Yeah,
games and potentially potentially a baseball team coming
yeah,
to Las Vegas and I don't know, who knows, maybe down the line an NBA franchise will be in Vegas, whether it be a current team moving there or a brand new team down the line. So it's a hotbed for, obviously they got the Raiders and a brand new stadium there.
yeah.
So that
And the
the
Golden Knights,
the
NHL.
Golden Knights who already
Yeah.
been very good in hockey since they first started. So there's a hotbed for good stuff. You think that money would trickle down to the community.
So something I learned right before leaving, and don't quote me on this because I didn't research it, but what
Okay.
I heard is that like the Las Vegas Strip is technically not part of Clark County. So the way that it is like incorporated, and please, again, excuse me if I'm misspeaking, but the way that it is isolated, I think the only casino that lands itself in the county proper is the Stratosphere. So
Mm,
that definitely would make a little bit more sense as to why the county schools and the systems aren't really seeing that support.
mm,
But I guess I'm just gossiping and throwing out rumors. Hopefully I'm not totally wrong, but when I had heard that, and I mean, even if you look on like Google Maps, it calls that area Paradise, Nevada, right? So it's not
mm,
saying Clark County. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a massive casino industry. Obviously,
mm,
they were one of the big emerging marijuana industries out there. All of these things are supposed to be helping the school systems and the kids and the locals, and
mm,
it's not. In fact, I think about a year ago, Las Vegas's the current mayor, who was just elected, I was kind of in a little back and forth with her, pushing pretty hard, and she said, "Well, what are you trying to get at? Like, what do you want out of me? What do you want to hear?" And I was like, "I'm trying to figure out why I should vote for you. Like, you're telling me that I should vote for you because you're going to get us a Major League Baseball team? Like, we have all of these things, and our students and our kiddos, they're suffering a lot." So,
So you're in New York State, my home state. That's
okay.
um, it's a lot to unpack in New York State.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially within the last 5 years with you know, with Cuomo resigning and everything allegedly that he did, and now he's back in the spotlight to run for New York City mayor, and we got the current governor who was the lieutenant governor that took over, and she's a hit or miss, and it's like got the back and forth with the previous mayor of New York, De Blasio, never really getting along with Cuomo, and like now Eric Adams, who's trying to seek re-election. New
Mm,
York is just
mm, mm.
a hot mess right now.
Yeah, and what do they say about doing the same thing over and over?
We're experiencing now with the White House again. So.
I mean, yeah, but if you don't even get me started on all of this because I'm politics, man, I'm so disgusted. There is no good side. There's no, to me, there's no left and right anymore. It's just the haves and the have nots. We are in a, I don't know, the downfall of capitalism. And I hope that it burns and I hope it doesn't take too many people down with it, but this isn't what human life is supposed to be. It's not what it's supposed to look like. And to circle back to why we started and how you and I started talking, it's just
Mhm.
that as social workers, we really are supposed to recognize these things and we're supposed to call them out and we're supposed to be, you said in your opening, agents of change. And instead, I feel very complicit in all of it, the systems that have led us to where we are now. And, working within the American healthcare system is just number one proof of we're not doing well. We're not doing well as social
Mhm.
workers. Um, One of my biggest qualms, I guess you could say, is the fact that a lot of times when we are seeing clients, um, in order for a therapist to get paid, oh, my dog's making a debut. Um, you have to diagnose someone on session one.
Mhm.
I mean, that is egregious in my book. That is horrific. So,
Yeah, I don't miss those days. Especially you got to maybe have to go back and possibly change the diagnosis because you obviously getting to know the client more and having more sessions. So yeah, I don't miss definitely don't miss doing that. Um, now, so like how is so what I was getting at with New York State,
mm.
uh, and even like federally going on as was happening both in state and or federally affecting your day-to-day work at all, and if so, how?
I thankfully have not had any significant issues. There have been days that these memorandums come out and it's kind of like a oh shit moment. And is this it? Is the work going to end? But I do feel confident that a lot of the initiatives that I'm trying to implement within the university are things that they can be implemented with or without the grant. So that's my hope. And um, right now we're okay. There's a lot of grants that are being pulled and I feel very fortunate. And we're just going to keep doing the work until somebody says that we can't.
Well, so what do these initiatives look like at where you work at?
So we are, first of all, trying to really bridge a gap between um, campus safety and the student community.
Mm.
So there's a little bit of a gap there. Some universities make sure that, or they're able to hire and employ their campus safety, versus some universities that have like third party security that are on campus doing that. And so where I am, it's a third party, and it just hasn't been like a really solid integration. So I think community in general is something I'm trying to grow on campus, and then bridging the gap because again, I'm working in the realm of DVSAS. So your first responders to something like that, or a student that wants to report something like that, is going to be campus safety or campus housing staff. So that is my focus for the upcoming fall incoming students, and just making sure that we have trauma informed campus safety, trauma informed RAs and RDs. Um, and I'm also partnering with a lot of community organizations, which is great. The grant, as it was written, it focuses on the vulnerable populations of LGBTQIA students, who historically have a higher rate of DV, and sexual assault, and also first gen students.
Oh,
So
nice.
partnering with community organizations that really are the experts on those populations and bringing them in. And I that has been one of the most fulfilling parts, is getting to know some of the community organizations around and bringing them in and seeing other people who are passionate about this type of work. It's fulfilling. It's really great.
Now, how is it working with college students, especially, we touched on 2020 and people just in education lost almost like 2 years of their education. So we're looking at potential incoming, freshmen or people still in school, like would have been, and not. The idea is like they lost 2 years
Right.
and it's hard to kind of like get that back and learning, like what do you see with the incoming students?
Yeah, so and mind you, I've only been in this position for about 4.5 months, so I'm definitely
Okay.
not the expert on it. But no, I've never felt older in my life. I don't know, for some reason working with little kids, it never made me feel a certain age. But now, like, having these kids around me that are like, young adults, and I'm like, oh, I'm the same age as them, but I'm very much not. I'm very much not, and they let me know it. But it really is fascinating, and it kind of like surprises me every time I hear it when I have a student that says like, yeah, I didn't have a graduation from high school, because of COVID. And I was like, it's every time I hear those things, it's sad. And or we have um, students coming in for grad school or doctorates, and they were never able to celebrate their bachelor's degree and stuff like that. So I will say the students where I am currently working are very smart. They are very, very, very smart and driven, and um it's great to see, and it's fulfilling, and I hope that I am someone that they feel they can come to, and I hope that I'm someone they feel cares, because that again is what fulfills me day to day, is those little interactions. We also do, because I am in Buffalo, I am in kind of a border, not kind of, we are a border state. So we do have quite a few international students, and we have some students that are crossing the border, daily and weekly. So there has been increased concerns, as we see students getting detained and students getting essentially kidnapped, and
Mm.
all of the things that are happening with ICE. And um, it's scary. And
Yeah, definitely.
I thankfully we haven't had any issues where I personally work, but that's not to say that there aren't issues happening. And I know something that's really hard to swallow is the fact that there are families, there are people detained 7 minutes from me at the border,
Mm.
who likely are not criminals. And even if they are, I don't know that they deserve to be, you know, disappeared. And yeah, so there's a lot going on. There's a lot and it's hard to kind of juggle
Mm.
um how to keep yourself sane and how to keep yourself going. And they want us to all be exhausted, and they all want us to give up, and they all want us to be quiet. And also, as someone with the privilege of being born in this country and having white skin, like, it's incumbent upon me to be one of the loudest and risk the most and protect the most vulnerable. And I feel called to do that. And that's what I do in my free time.
No, that's good. No, I appreciate that, taking that call to do that, because it is a crazy time, and born and raised in New York, and sometimes I feel like depending where I plan to go or where I want to go, like I may have to take my passport if I if I go somewhere because they're detaining U.S. citizens too. So
And
it's
that's what I was gonna say, and we don't even know if that's gonna be helpful. We don't.
exactly. So it's a hot mess all the way around, and it's that fine line that us who do the work to where that fine line is, because so much happens on a day-to-day basis, that how much you want to stay informed, but at the same time not burning yourself out, driving yourself nuts, for lack of a better word.
Right.
Because literally, like every day, like two or three things are happening in one day, and it's like you can easily miss something that this administration wants to do, and it's like, well, wait, what? And it's like, it's just a lot happening all at once, and purposely done by the administration and everything that's in the project 2025, and which I've talked about on the podcast before. So it's things are literally happening, and everything the administration wants to do, they're going to do it, and they said they were going to do it, and they're doing it, whether
Yeah.
it's legal or not. They're doing it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that that is why it's so important to build community, right? It's important to get to know your neighbors. It's important to look out for one another. And that is one of the things I work on outside of my job and inside of my job: bystander intervention and stepping in and, doing the best you can to pay attention and prevent harm, and knowing that you have support outside of that work. And that's where community really comes in, because you can go back to your people and debrief and get pumped up or get motivated and do what you need to do to keep going and keep fighting. Because it is, incumbent upon us to resist fascism. So,
Yeah. What what do you do to in terms of self care to keep yourself sane as much as possible with everything going on?
well, for me, I I focus on collective liberation. And I also, one of the reasons I first messaged you was because you had posted about, social workers and the topic of self-care. And for me, self-care is a trash buzzword. It's like, I hate it. I hate it. Because I think that self-care is marketed to us as another individual responsibility. And I personally don't think that we're not going to bubble bath our way out of out of the problems that we're facing. So for me, self-care really, really does look like connecting with like-minded people. Doing this today, as scary as it felt because it's new, this is my form of self-care. I've never done anything like this, but I'm passionate about speaking on the things that I feel are important to me, and to me, that's self-care.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, no, I appreciate, you responded to, and I want to shout out YouTube, who gave me the inspiration. It literally says inspiration for my video. So like, let me make a post about it, and you
Yeah,
responded, and
here we are.
here we are. Exactly.
Cheers. Hopefully you don't regret
No, not at all. Like, no,
it.
that's important, that the conversation that we having, and for the new MSW students, BSW students who graduated. Congratulations first and foremost. But like,
Absolutely.
we're at a tough time in in the world, basically. I mean, this
Mhm.
when we got the genocide happening in Gaza, and the genocide happening in Congo, that America refuses to talk about. Is like, any day China might attack Taiwan. Is like, it's a whole, who knows what's happening with Iran, and Trump out in the world just causing havoc with these tariffs. So it's even if you want to do macro work, like companies are laying off folks. So it's it's just a lot.
It certainly is. And hats off to those people being called to the field, right? Because I don't know a single person who's gotten into social work to be like, I'm going to make a shit ton of money and I am going to, capitalize on other people's suffering. Like, that's not why people get into the field, right? So yeah, we have a lot of like natural helpers, natural healers. If they're at all like me, it's because they went through some shit as a kid or as a teenager and they needed to be the person that they needed as a child, right? And you know, I just encourage everyone getting into the field to just question everything. Just question everything and don't just take everything that is being told to you wherever you're hearing it from as, the word of God. You have free will, you have so many places to get information. Thankful for podcasts like this. I do have to give a shout out to Marvin Tolliver,
Yes.
LCSW.
Shout out to the
And
homie Marvin.
yeah, yeah. And like the space that he's created for so many different groups. But
Mhm.
if you are new to the social work field, or even if you're just catching this and you're not new to the social work field, consider following Marvin. And they have put together some incredible Zoom calls for social workers to connect with each other. It is called Social Work State of Emergency. And, it's kind of a testament to how powerful we can be when we come together and reflect and assess and create goals and work towards goals, because a lot of westernized thinking and a lot of the healthcare world and even the social work world is very isolating and individualistic. And to me, that's not at all how we heal and grow and build build a better future.
No, yeah. Yeah, definitely shout out to Marvin with the state of emergency. I've been on a couple other calls. There was a call literally as of this recording yesterday,
Mhm.
helping undocumented folks. So 520. There was a call, a follow up call regarding helping on undocumented clients in the space, and definitely there's a lot that goes into that. You touched on it, earlier with your college students. So just people in general, just struggling. I kind of sort of see it at my job, that working in the hospital, people not bringing their kids in who are undocumented just for fear of ICE coming in and meeting them at the hospital to take them. So it's just a lot.
Heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking, and it's hard to wake up every day and have your heart broken and still keep going. So shout out to everyone who is feeling it and going through it. And you're not alone. That's for sure.
Yeah, you're definitely not alone. And I mean, there's definitely money to be made in the field. There's definitely a lot of good people to follow and learn from. But yeah,
Tons of opportunity. Tons of
yes,
opportunity.
yes, and even in non-traditional spaces, it's like all these tech companies with AI, and they need social workers. It may not be their job titles might not say social worker, but there's a lot of social work things, transferable
Mhm.
skills like that you could do in the space and make your money in the space. Or if
Yeah, absolutely.
you're ready to leave America, then do that too. So
We'll miss you. That is something that, was really kind of exciting about graduating and with my master's, but not choosing licensure, right? So just kind of the process of seeing how many opportunities really are out there in fields that are social work adjacent, or you know, you have so many tools in your toolbox now with these degrees, and you can really just find your niche and figure out where you want to go, because there's not a space that doesn't require some of this, you know, knowledge and expertise.
Mm. No, absolutely. Now you mentioned earlier about getting burnt out before you really even like kind of started your work. What exactly led to that burnout? Like what did you experience?
So one of the things that really um started to eat at me a little bit was that you know, as a PSR provider, I was working with my clients up to 6 hours a week, and the therapist was generally working. Um, we were a team, and the therapist was generally working with the kiddo from between 45 minutes to an hour a week. So as I'm pursuing wanting to become the therapist, I'm thinking, okay, so now I'm only really going to have 45 minutes to an hour per client, and um, after I spend an hour with this client, they are being sent back into capitalist, racist, broken systems. So, how much of an impact am I going to make? Again, it was that whole like, I can be everything to that client for that hour, which, let's be real, I was not that. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't matter how good I am
Hmm.
if everything else around this client is failing. So that's what really was lighting under me. Like, I have to go bigger. I have to look at policy. I have to look at capitalism. I have to look at systemic oppression. I have to look at racism. All these things that were taught to us as history in American
Hmm.
public school, history, right? And it's alive and well, all of it. And how naive of me to ever believe for those short 14 years that I believed. um, you know, and it's just that I don't think I was, again, I wasn't burned out from the work, like the actual work. It was everything else around it that made the work feel futile.
Yeah, I get it. It's like I know for myself, like having like past therapeutic sessions and like, are you doing good work? Clients seem to be making progress, and then it's like that they're literally going back home, and then the home's toxic or the neighborhood's toxic, and it's like you worry about what's going to happen the next time you're going to see them. Like the progress, literally just like a hamster, just spinning the wheel, pretty much.
It's certainly not to say that it's not important work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just to say that for me, it didn't feel right. So I don't want somebody to listen to this and feel like, oh, it's futile. I shouldn't become a therapist. I should, like, that's not at all what I'm trying to get at. I just mean that for me, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel like enough for whatever I'm meant to do here with my time. It didn't feel enough for me. So, therapy has been wildly successful for so many people, and it is so necessary for so many people. And
Mm-hmm.
there's amazing therapists out there, and there's amazing micro social workers out there.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I know a lot of great people who are therapists, and for therapists, social workers need their own therapists too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We do.
uh, Even before these last 5 years alone, like it's been. I think I lived like 2 or 3 lives these last 5 years.
Certainly feels that way, doesn't it? Certainly feels that way. Yeah, it's and I think that this is the way that we're feeling and that we can commiserate over these feelings. To me, it is why collective care is so important. And circling back to the topic of self-care, self-care without collective care is it's just survival. It's just you surviving. So how do you thrive? And I think that's through community and like-minded people and working towards something.
Yeah, I mean, they put self-care in our code of ethics, so.
Thanks. Thanks. No higher wages, no lower caseloads, no payment for grad work. I mean, that was one of the most, that felt so wrong to work 16 hours a week for free. I was at almost 40 years old. I have a family, I have a home, I have a job, I have school loans, I have a car payment. And while I was experiencing that unpaid work, I didn't work enough hours in my job to get health care. And because my online program was online, I didn't qualify for student health care. So like these are the systems that I'm supposed to just be like, yeah, let's go work for these systems and cheer them on. And come on, this is crazy. It's crazy. So um if we can get, I know that one of the social work state of emergency topics is holding the NASW accountable.
Mhm.
I think that that's so important. I don't think I can, maybe I can justify bachelor level unpaid internship. Um, but even when I was doing my bachelor's, I was 10 years older than all the students. I didn't do the traditional path, right? So I
Right.
was always much older while I was in university. And so I wasn't on mom and dad's healthcare, and I wasn't living under mom and dad's roof, and mom and dad weren't paying for it. And a lot of people don't have mom and dad to do those things anyway. So still, I
Right.
just think that all of the free work, the free internship, the free because you're learning, it doesn't seem legit anymore. And the way, like the space that we're in right now and the type of capitalism and the economy that we're like in this economy,
Mm-hmm.
like it just, it doesn't, it felt really, really icky. And then, you know, I don't have kids. I was working with other interns who are also working for free that had children. So how are you providing for your children while going to school, paying for school? It just, it's crazy. And then what, to become the agents of change when we're struggling and drowning?
Exactly.
Rant.
Teaching,
Social work rant, I'm sorry.
no, it's true. It's like I remember like meeting clients and talking, the first of the month, and it's like you gotta make sure you see the clients because they're gonna blow their money on whatever, and teaching them about budgeting yet. Like, sure, I don't know how to budget on my own. Like, I'm in the red too. Once I
I
pay my
know.
rent
I
and my
know.
transportation to get to work, that's it. Like, my
I
paycheck is
know.
gone. So it's like,
Isn't it so funny? I was always really good at teaching kids things that I couldn't even do myself.
but that's what we do in this
Mm,
space. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah. So going back to the state of emergency. Yeah, they recently had a call on holding the NASW accountable. I was on that call. Honestly, I wish a lot more people were on that call, but it was still very productive and just a lot of stuff NASW that's not being shared with the general public for whatever the reason. So even like local chapters doing stuff that's like
right.
not letting their states or social workers in their particular states know what's happening. So it's interesting to say the least.
I mean, a red line for me and the NASW was just not saying anything about a genocide that we're funding with our tax dollars, and nothing, silent. But we're supposed, but activism and standing up for the most vulnerable, the most marginalized, the most suffering, nothing. And when we called them out on that publicly, we were blocked or comments were turned off, or, you know, it's hypocritical.
Yeah, their social media is, and this is the national chapter for to be clear, is
That's fair. Yeah.
disaster. The last 5 years has been absolute disaster.
That is a interesting. So I guess I wasn't in social work prior to this, so I didn't know any of this. Was this a different beast a decade ago?
I don't know because I really didn't really pay attention to them
Fair.
once when I graduated in 2010, and this is just for me. I did have uh, a student membership, but once I graduated, I was like, I barely got anything out of the
No.
student membership. So it's like, why I'm going to pay money that I don't have to.
I was also a student member and I did not renew ever again.
so, so it's like, and then as become more seasoned and kind of really, I really started paying attention to them like the last 5 years since I started the podcast and kind of
Mhm.
see what they were doing, not doing, and just seeing this. It's not just Instagram; it was on Twitter before Elon messed it up, and it was like, uh, and they heard all the noise, and they were doing Facebook lives for a while, and acknowledging some of the comments that were were toward them. Actually, for me, felt like very much seen. But it's I don't know, and what sucks is like Dr. Eastry, he's a cool dude, like that off conversations, and it's like he's cool, and I may speak out of pocket, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But like he's fighting his own systems within the actual NASW himself, and there's been stuff against him that's been documented on
Mm,
it on Instagram. So that's not my place to talk about
I'm
that.
not familiar. I'm
But
not
like I'm
familiar
just
with
talking
it.
about Dr. Eastry as the CEO and the systems he's fighting within the NSW and does NSW as a whole and their terrible social media. Whoever's running it is the last 5 years has been absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And you're right,
Um,
not talking about no, and it's not just Gaza. It's also like Congo and like everything else.
Sudan and
Sudan and
yeah,
there's a lot of things that are happening throughout the world, and it's like nothing.
I think that we're definitely in a mask off moment for the United States and what our role as social workers is throughout this process is interesting. I can't define it. I don't think there's an answer to what our role is, but I know that we should be on the forefront of the fights. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people are starting to see some realities that, again, I referred to my naivety as a young suburban white girl. Um, but that there was always something in me that was asking questions. I was never just going with what I was told. And slowly I was able to peel back a lot of the unlearn, right? I had to unlearn a lot. And I think that that is maybe I just answered my own question. I think that that is a role of a social worker. So while we continue to learn and while we go on our journey as helpers and agents of change, we need to unlearn while we learn, and that in itself is quite the journey.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us who want to do the work or in that space to try to unlearn stuff we learned and kind of that's how you grow as a person, just kind of learn and grow and it's verbiage, the or even just terms that we could have said 5-10 years ago
Right.
can't can't say now. So it's like it's the evolution of just the space and the work that we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
And unfortunately, we're surrounded by a lot of people who don't want to learn or unlearn. They're just perfectly happy where they are. And that's what's making things tough.
Yes. Hence my experience in school social work.
I'm sure.
uh, where can people find you or reach out to you?
Oh my goodness. I am on Instagram at JL Bosch, which is BOSCH. Due to my current employment, I am private, but if you do want to connect, please feel free to shoot me a message. And that's pretty much the only space I am. I'm really only in that space. I am so grateful for this opportunity, and I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to say free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free all oppressed people. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's a dope combo. I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
I hope I don't regret it. Hopefully I made sense.